Stephanie Chung, your go-to for all things marketing, mindset, and manifestation. I grew my online business from 0 to beyond 6 figures in 8 months. My purpose is to empower women to step into the highest, most aligned versions of themselves. If you are ready to take charge of your life, learn how to design a wildly successful business, and leave limiting beliefs behind, you've come to the right place. You will learn the actionable tips and step-by-step strategies on money, manifestation, and social media. It's time to step into your role as boss, to raise your vibration and tap into your unlimited potential today. Welcome to the Social Reset Podcast. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about pleasure. And I love talking about pleasure for the sake of talking about pleasure, but I always like connecting it back to your business, right? And creating business results and creating cash and clients and money. I love talking about money. I love talking about wealth. I love talking about women making more money and women making more money by tapping into their sensual, sexual pleasure. And this is such a beautiful topic and conversation. And I've been talking about it a lot lately. And I love talking about it because there were a lot of seasons in my life and environments in my life where I wasn't able to talk about this and where I wasn't able to have these conversations. And so I think it's so important to bring this into the way that you think about your business and the way that you connect with yourself, because that's really what it is. It's self-intimacy. It is the way that you connect with who you are, your identity, your spirit, all of these things that make up who you are. So when you create more pleasure in your life, in your body, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what's happening or not happening in your life and or business, you become that soul creator in your life, in your story, in your universe, right? And that becomes so powerful because then you really are able to design the vision, the legacy, the life, the history you want to leave behind. Everything you want to create in your life gets to become yours because you're so intertwined with you. And that starts with creating pleasure. And this isn't something that we normally talk about or think about even or associate with business. Business has always been very traditionally masculine, typically wounded masculine. So you learn a lot about the strategies and you learn a lot about the do's, and we see a lot of people falling into hustle culture. I'm sure a lot of you, if you're in the online space, or you're following online coaches, you see a lot of them start to burn their businesses down or walk away from the companies that they've built because it no longer feels aligned to them, right? And of course, I'm all for people choosing bigger and better ventures and whatever feels good to them. But I do think that a big part of it is because we have these unsustainable ways of working. We have these unsustainable ways of navigating our own energy that causes us to burn out and feel very disconnected from our bodies. So what I want to talk about here today is creating responsibility around your pleasure. And that doesn't necessarily need to be sexual. It doesn't necessarily need to be even with a partner, right? A lot of the time when I talk about pleasure, it's self-pleasure, it's solo pleasure. And it can involve so many different things, right? It doesn't just need to be in the bedroom. It doesn't even need to lead to orgasm, right? It could just be you feeling good, doing something that makes you feel good, right? Maybe that is getting a massage or going on a walk or taking a bath or connecting with your body in some way, doing a ritual, doing a ceremony, right? Taking a nap, right? Resting your body. These are all ways of creating pleasure in your body. And pleasure is such a subjective umbrella term that it could really mean so many infinite amount of things that look different from person to person. And maybe each time you explore a new pleasure ritual or a pleasure practice, you try something new. Maybe you have some that you love, but maybe there are some that you want to try out that you've never tried before, right? And so that gets to be a part of your journey in exploring your sexuality and building intimacy with yourself. Now, you might be wondering how this could possibly relate to your your business and how you're running your business, creating business results, creating clients, attracting people through your marketing, booking sales calls, booking new clients, right? And the fact of the matter is, your pleasure is truly the gates of, it is truly like unleashing the floodgates, right? It is truly you stepping into your truest power. When a woman is fully turned on and lit up and feeling that very beautiful, yummy, delicious, orgasmic sensations, that is a woman that is in her power, right? That is a woman that feels so sure of herself and her body and what turns her on and what creates joy, right? These are all things that make us who we are. And when you commit to that, and when you build self-intimacy around that, it naturally creates self-awareness. So self-awareness, just being aware of how you feel, what you're thinking, what you're experiencing, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, right? Experimenting with something new. And then when you are more aware of your body's sensations, you are more connected to your body and your truth. You're more connected to your magic. Right? So your magic is something that's always been within you. But when you create pleasure, that creates self-intimacy, that creates self-awareness. Now you are closer to your magic than you ever were. Because you're opening yourself to receive. You're opening yourself to be this channel that is willing to be and experience pleasure, right? And be pleasured. And you build this relationship with yourself that becomes so magnetic and so fiery that anything you end up doing after that, whether it's in your business directly or in your life, you become such a magnet because everything you do is supercharged with that energy. Everything you do is supercharged with that vibration, with that frequency, right? Is a different frequency than being dull and bland and not being lit up and not being turned on and doing things because you feel like you have to, right? That is a very, very different frequency than I'm turned on. I am connected to the sensations in my body. I am choosing and committing to my pleasure, right? I am taking responsibility for my pleasure, right? It's not about waiting for someone else to pleasure you or to give you pleasurable sensations, or when something goes well in your business and then it creates pleasure, right? It's this concept of always creating pleasure within yourself, regardless of what you're doing or what's happening in your life, in your business, right? So not just feeling pleasure and not just feeling good when your business is going really well, right? So for example, like you've got these really high cash months, so you just signed a couple of clients and you feel good, you feel pleasurable. And you feel those sensations in your body and you're like, yeah, I'm vibing with this. This feels so good. But then the moment a client says no on a sales call, or the moment that you hit an income dip and things start going down a little bit, you immediately lose sense of that pleasure because that pleasure was essentially associated or hooked onto whether things go well in your business or not. Right? So creating pleasure in your body is more than just pleasuring yourself or creating a way of just feeling good, which yes, you get to do 100% anytime, anywhere, but it's also to attract pleasurable results in your business as well. And that's a big part of it. Right? Is you are in the state of mind, you're in this energy, you're in this frequency that allows you to attract what you want, right? It is as simple as like, if you're putting batteries into a machine or something that you want to work, like you want it to match up to the side that is going to activate the battery's energy, right? Anything, if you look at it close enough, is going to have some type of vibration and frequency. So it's just a matter of like, and this is just said in other words, you becoming an energetic match to what it is that you desire, right? And when you become more of a match to what you desire, when you create a lifestyle, an energy that is just turned on. And turned on might not be the word that you would use. Maybe you would use magnetic. Maybe you would use, I don't know, centered maybe, or grounded, even though that is kind of a different energy. I'm thinking more of like sparks, right? When sparks are flying, you're feeling good, you're feeling lit up. That's another one. You want to connect with a sensation that you name and define that makes you feel like you're literally sparkling. Okay? Like you're literally Edward Cullen in The Sun. I think it was The Sun, right? It's been a long time. And you're sparkling, you are glowing, you are a different version of yourself, but not really, because it's just you on pleasure, right? Like literally as if it was a drug. You on pleasure, let's just use that phrase, is so much more magnetic and energetic and open to receiving whatever it is that you desire when you're in that state of mind. So much more so than if you were in the states of just doing monotonous things over and over and over, just creating repetition because you feel like that's something that you have to do or should do, right? Like in our businesses, if we're just posting and we're just showing up and we're just connecting with our people and we're doing this in a very, again, monotonous, robotic way of like, this is just what I have to do. I just have to feed the machine. I just have to show up and do these things, right? It's not going to be as pleasurable on any side as if you were feeling lit up, a transmission came through you, you want to share it with your people, with your community, you feel so connected to your message, right? You don't care, like you're not worried about the insights or the metrics, you are just concerned about getting your message out there because you are in such a electrified and magnetic and turned on state, right? That is the level of energy and frequency you want to be at and what you end up creating naturally when you prioritize and commit to your pleasure, right? That is a natural byproduct. It's a natural side effect of you showing up for yourself and prioritizing and committing and taking responsibility for your pleasure, right? That is just something that comes literally almost automatically, right? Because you're in that state of receiving, you're opening yourself to receive. That is a very specific type of energy and it's a very specific intention, right? Where you are literally opening yourself just for the pure reason of experiencing joy, experiencing pleasure, and experiencing fun, play, right? Whatever words you want to use for it, for whatever specific intention that you have with yourself, right? Or if it's with a partner. This is something you're doing intentionally to create sensations. And it's something that you are always in control of. Your body and your pleasure is always something that you get to take responsibility for and is always something that you get to own, right? So just like if you are, creating an intimate session or you're in an intimate session with a partner and you're expecting them to be the ones to please you and to pleasure you, right? Rather than taking that responsibility on for yourself, right? Not that you're not speaking up for what you want or being able to advocate for your pleasure or your kinks, but it's knowing that at the end of the day, you are in charge of your pleasure. Your pleasure is created by you, right? And it's the same thing with your business. Your business is not here to create pleasure for you. You create pleasure no matter what happens in your business, right? Whether you have a really high cash month or the next month after it dips kind of low, like you realize and decide that you can create pleasure and you can decide your identity no matter what happens. That's the beauty of creating pleasure in your life, in your business, in your results, because it's not dependent on anyone else. You are the creator. You are the one that is in charge. You are the one that is facilitating these emotions, these sensations in your body, right? And it gets to be such a beautiful, autonomous, and sovereign thing because you don't put that on anyone else and you don't blame anyone else for it. You own it, but you have to also take responsibility for it, right? So saying excuses like, oh, but I don't have time, I have kids, I have this, I have that, like all these things that we say that get in the way of us experiencing pleasure. And I get it, right? Like I was going to school and, I'm a single mom and I was building my business. But before I had my business, I was working multiple jobs. And so I had very little time, but whatever time I did have, I was very serious and very committed to creating pleasure in my life, in my body, right? It didn't always look so easy to do that. And there would be seasons of life where I would go and forget about taking care of myself and creating pleasure in my life or in my body. But it's something that I learned to do over time. And it's also something that a lot of people will tell me, like other single moms will be like, wow, you really prioritize taking time for yourself and taking care of yourself and going out to do things on your own and staycations or whatnot. And it never really struck me as something that was odd necessarily, because it's just the way that I function. And if I didn't have this, I literally wouldn't be able to function, right? And so I want you to see how creating these sensations of pleasure and prioritizing your pleasure, however that looks to you, right? Like again, that doesn't have to be sexual. It doesn't have to end in an orgasm. The orgasm doesn't have to be the goal, right? It could just be a self-massage. It could be a bath. It could be going for a walk, right? It could be all these things of connecting with your body. Even stretching can be really pleasurable and feel really good, right? So it doesn't always have to be connected to sex and sexuality, even though that's, of course, a really big part of it, is you connecting to that sensual nature, right? And becoming turned on. But even turned on doesn't necessarily have to mean aroused, right? It can just mean this is the state of life that you're living in. Like I would say that I live a turned on life all the time. Yes, back scratches. Yeah, that's so good. Or like getting a machine or getting toys involved, or like a massage, machine or something to incorporate, prioritizing your pleasure, whatever that would look like for you, right? And there's no wrong way. There is nothing that gets to be off limits here, that you create. And I want you to see, like, if this is something that you're like, okay, I want to prioritize this, I want to commit to this. I really want you to see how this starts to open you in so many ways to attracting beautiful things in your business, right? Where this is not taught in traditional masculine business building, right? This is not taught in a lot of those spaces. Most of those spaces, you've probably not heard. Maybe very, very little have you heard the connection between sex and intimacy and orgasms with business, right? But it is something that impacts all areas of our life when we get to put our pleasure first. When we choose our pleasure, it becomes such a ripple effect into everything else in our lives. Of course, our business, of course, our wealth and our way of attracting money and attracting clients and attracting opportunities. You become a match for that when you are lit up and when you're magnetic and when you're feeling turned on. okay? That's all I want to share with you all. If this is something you want to dive deeper into with me, I actually have something coming, and I'm going to tease it to my stories first and launch it there first. So definitely keep an eye out. If this is something that you want to dive deeper into now and you want to have a conversation with me, DM me. The best way right now to work with me is through my academy, which is Business Activation Academy. It is 6 beautiful modules, live coaching calls twice a month, every single month, for either the new coach that's just starting and you're starting from scratch and you want to build your business from scratch, literally from zero. I am teaching you how to connect with your magic. I am teaching you how to build a one-on-one offer. I'm teaching you how to market and how to sell your offer. This is also for the coach that's already launched. Maybe you've already worked with a couple of clients, but you're not seeing the efficiency and the effortlessness that you really want to create in your business. This is also what we tackle inside BAA as well. And the one thing I love about it is it's such a beautiful community. You're in it for life. So you get lifetime access, and you get lifetime access to the calls too, which I do not see a lot of other coaches and business owners offering. It's a really great way to jump in, be a part of a community, grow together, always have access to the live calls, and always have access to the modules. So as you create new offers, as you really work on nailing your sales and evaluating your marketing and building your business, you always have access to that. And if you want to be in the advanced room, Magic Mind Mastermind is enrolling in August, okay? So it's going to be late August. So if you know you for sure want to be notified, or if you want to start a earlier payment plan, because it needs to be 10K paid completely by the time we start in October. So I have a wait list for that in the link in my bio. But if you like to talk over it and see which offer might be better for you, whether that's Business Activation Academy or the Magic Mind Mastermind, I'm always open to having conversations and seeing what makes the most sense. So you can feel free to shoot me a DM. I also have one-on-one spot available as well, but that is at a premium price. So that's for a very specific person, and you'll know if that's you. So DM me if you have any questions, and I will see you all later. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. If this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at tiffanychung.co. I truly appreciate interacting with every one of you. Catch you all on the next one.